Picture this, it's a quiet Tuesday morning. The sun is just peeking through your curtains. You're sipping coffee, and for the first time, you don't feel the tug of the office, the deadlines, or the commute. Instead, you're wondering, could I actually be ready to step into retirement? Most people think retirement readiness is only about money, but sometimes the clearest signals are emotional. Today, let's explore the surprising signs that may mean you're ready for this next chapter. The shift from FOMO to JOMO is one of those subtle emotional changes that often sneaks up on you, and when it does, it says a lot about where you are in life. For years, many of us carry that sense of urgency, that pressure to always be present, always perform, always prove ourselves in the workplace or even in social circles. Missing out feels dangerous, as if stepping back means losing relevance or falling behind. But at some point, that constant chase starts to feel less like a thrill and more like a weight. The surprising thing is when that weight lifts, not because the demands went away, but because your heart stopped needing them. That's when FOMO quietly transforms into JOMO, the joy of missing out. Imagine being invited to yet another long meeting that stretches into the evening. 10 years ago, you might have felt flattered to be included, afraid to decline, worried about what people might say if you weren't there. But now you look at the invitation, and instead of anxiety, you feel calm. You'd rather spend the evening at your granddaughter's piano recital, or sitting with your spouse over tea, or simply unwinding with a good book. And here's the key, you don't feel guilty about it. You actually feel joy in choosing peace over hustle. That emotional ease is a strong sign you may be leaning toward retirement readiness. It's not just about work either. FOMO can show up in all corners of life. Maybe you used to worry about being part of every community gathering, every extended family trip, every new trend or gadget. Now, you might find yourself perfectly happy to let others chase after the next big thing while you savor what you already have. There's a sweetness in sitting out and realizing the world doesn't fall apart when you step back. It keeps spinning, and you get to enjoy it from a calmer seat. What's powerful about JOMO is that it signals a change in your values. Instead of defining yourself by business or involvement, you begin defining yourself by presence, being fully there for the moments you care about most. That inner satisfaction often points to a deeper truth. You may not need the constant proving ground of work anymore. Retirement isn't about losing your identity, it's about expanding it beyond the office walls. When the thought of missing out on work feels more like a gift than a threat, you might already be emotionally prepared to embrace what's next. There's an odd feeling many people experience as they approach retirement. Even when the calendar looks wide open, it somehow feels heavy and crowded. On paper, there may not be many appointments or responsibilities left, but the weight of years spent tied to a work schedule lingers in the background. You sit down with a quiet afternoon ahead, yet instead of relaxation, there's restlessness. It's as if the mind is still wired to expect deadlines, phone calls, or the next big meeting. That tension between an empty schedule and a full mind is often a signal that you're ready for a different rhythm. For decades, work life runs on a kind of autopilot. Lunch breaks are dictated by the clock. Vacations are negotiated months in advance, and even weekends are peppered with the thought of Monday. When that structure loosens, many find themselves craving not more tasks, but more meaningful ones. It's not about filling every blank space. It's about rewriting what those blank spaces mean. Instead of rushing to sign up for more commitments, you might feel the urge to claim time for family dinners, slow morning walks, or hobbies you once shelved. The shift isn't about productivity anymore, it's about purpose. Think of it like cleaning out a closet. For years, you may have packed it with old coats, shoes, and boxes you rarely touch, until opening the door feels overwhelming. One day you finally clear it out. The closet is empty, but the relief comes not from rushing to refill it, but from appreciating the space itself. Retirement readiness can feel similar. The crowdedness you sense isn't a lack of activity, it's the leftover noise of obligations you no longer want to carry. This realization often sparks a hunger for intentional living. You start to notice how much joy comes from unhurried time. Watching your grandchildren play, planting a garden, or reconnecting with an old friend over coffee. Those moments don't demand a rigid calendar, but they do require space, both in your schedule and in your head. When you find yourself valuing those quiet blocks of time more than another round of meetings or checklists, that's an emotional cue worth paying attention to. Retirement may not erase the habit of business overnight, but when the idea of empty space feels less unsettling and more like a gift, you're stepping into a new season. That gentle longing to reclaim your time is often less about escaping work and more about embracing life on your own terms. There comes a point in life when the drive to achieve, accumulate, and climb starts to fade, and something quieter, but more powerful takes its place. Instead of asking, "What's next for me?" the question slowly shifts to, "What can I leave behind?" This gentle pull toward teaching and legacy is often one of the clearest emotional signals that retirement may be around the corner. It's not a sudden change. It sneaks in through small moments, like when you find yourself telling more stories at the dinner table, or when the highlight of your week isn't finishing a project, but showing a grandchild how to ride a bike. Legacy doesn't always mean grand gestures like writing a book or donating to charity, though those can certainly be part of it. Often, it's woven into the everyday acts of teaching and sharing. Passing down a family recipe, teaching a younger neighbor how to repair something, or simply telling the story of how you built your career are all ways of leaving pieces of yourself behind. It's the realization that your wisdom is more valuable when shared than when stored away. Think about the satisfaction of mentoring someone at work in your final years on the job. The pride doesn't come from your own achievements anymore, but from seeing someone else succeed with your guidance. Or imagine sitting with your adult children, offering not advice they didn't ask for, but gentle perspective, helping them avoid the mistakes you once made. These moments are about continuity, about knowing that your experiences won't vanish with time, but will ripple forward into future generations. This pull toward legacy often changes how you see your time. Instead of chasing promotions or the next financial milestone, you begin to savor moments that feel lasting. A walk with your partner where you talk about the early days of your marriage, or an afternoon spent sorting through family photos, suddenly feels more rewarding than another hour at the desk. That's not laziness. It's a reordering of values, a sign that your focus is shifting from growth to grounding. When teaching feels more fulfilling than achieving, and when planting seeds in others brings more joy than adding another trophy to your shelf, you may already be emotionally prepared for retirement. It's not about stepping away from purpose. It's about stepping into a purpose that lives beyond you. That gentle pull toward legacy is a quiet but profound signal that it's time to embrace a new season. One of the more surprising emotional signs that retirement may be calling is when you start to notice how fiercely you value your peace. Things you once brushed off as part of the grind, traffic, office politics, endless email chains, suddenly feel less tolerable. It isn't that you've grown impatient, it's that your priorities have shifted. You've come to see that your time and energy are finite, and protecting them feels less like a luxury and more like a responsibility. This shift often catches people off guard because it doesn't always show up as frustration. Sometimes it shows up as a calm, firm decision to step away from things that no longer serve you. Consider how you used to handle workplace drama. Years ago, You might have thrown yourself into the problem, tried to fix it, or even lost sleep replaying conversations in your head. Now, the thought of engaging in the same cycle feels draining, not rewarding. You'd rather step back, keep your peace, and spend that energy on something that nourishes you. Choosing silence over conflict isn't giving up. It's recognizing what truly matters. That instinct to conserve your inner calm is a quiet marker of readiness for a different chapter. This protectiveness extends beyond work. You may notice it at home too. Invitations that once felt obligatory, large gatherings draining commitments, social obligations that eat up entire weekends, don't hold the same pull anymore. Instead, you lean towards smaller circles, meaningful conversations, and environments that feel safe and restorative. Your peace becomes the compass, guiding you toward relationships and activities that give life rather than take from it. What makes this signal a twist is that it doesn't always come with excitement. Sometimes it shows up as a firm boundary, a polite no, or a gentle withdrawal from spaces that used to define you. At first, it might even feel selfish, but in reality, it's a sign of growth. Retirement, after all, isn't about retreating from life. It's about choosing the life you want to protect. When your peace becomes non-negotiable, you begin to see retirement not as an ending, but as a tool for maintaining balance, health, and joy. If you find yourself filtering decisions through the question, "Will this disturb my peace?" that may be your heart telling you it's time. Retirement may not erase every stress, but when you feel ready to guard your calm more than you chase approval, you're already leaning toward the next season. Protecting your peace is not weakness, it's wisdom earned. A clear emotional sign that retirement might be closer than you realize is when excitement starts to outweigh anxiety. For many years, the very thought of leaving work can stir up worries about money, identity, or what to do with all that free time. Those questions are natural, and for a while they may keep you tethered to the familiar. But something shifts when those fears no longer dominate. Instead, you start imagining the possibilities ahead with a sense of eagerness. The unknown begins to feel less like a threat and more like an open field waiting to be explored. Picture yourself sitting at the breakfast table, and instead of stressing about the next quarter's deadlines, your mind drifts to the idea of traveling with your spouse, or volunteering at a local school, or finally dusting off that guitar you haven't touched in years. Those thoughts don't just pass through. They light you up. That spark of anticipation is more than daydreaming. It's your heart testing out what life after work could look like and feeling good about it. Of course, the anxiety doesn't vanish completely. There will always be questions about finances, about health, about how routines will change. But the balance tips when those concerns no longer outweigh the pull of freedom. You might still check your budget, but instead of dwelling on what you might lose, you catch yourself thinking more about what you'll gain. More mornings at home, more time with family, more opportunities to choose your pace. That shift in mindset is one of the strongest emotional indicators that you're preparing for retirement, even if you haven't said it out loud yet. It's similar to standing on the edge of a diving board. At first, your legs shake and the water looks cold. But once you've taken a deep breath and pictured the relief of floating afterward, the fear loses its grip. Excitement carries you forward. Retirement often works the same way. When you find yourself imagining the plunge with more thrill than dread, you've already taken the first step in your mind. This transition is powerful because it signals readiness, not just financially but emotionally. Anxiety keeps you holding on, excitement encourages you to let go. When your vision of the future fills you with more hope than hesitation, that's not just a passing mood. It's your inner compass pointing toward a new season of life. One of the most telling emotional signs of retirement readiness is when your relationship with money begins to shift. For much of adult life, money often feels like a scoreboard. Promotions, savings milestones, and investments become markers of progress, proof that your hard work is paying off. There's nothing wrong with that. It helps provide security and structure. But as retirement approaches, something deeper starts to happen. Instead of asking, "How much have I accumulated?" you start asking, "What can this allow me to experience, protect, or share?" That moment, when money becomes a tool rather than a tally, is a strong indicator that you're ready for the next chapter. Imagine looking at your savings account and, instead of feeling competitive or anxious, you feel grateful. You begin to see the balance not as a prize to hoard, but as a resource to help you live fully. Perhaps you think about how it can cover medical care, keep your home comfortable, or create lasting memories with your grandchildren on a family trip. The number itself matters less than what it can enable. That change in perspective often brings a sense of calm and confidence, even if there are still practical concerns to sort out. This shift also softens the pressure to constantly earn more. Where once you might have chased overtime hours, side projects, or market gains, now you find more satisfaction in how money supports your values. You start weighing purchases and plans not against the fear of falling behind, but against the joy of alignment. Would you rather have a slightly bigger account balance or a week of laughter at the beach with your family? When the latter begins to consistently win, you're already thinking in retirement terms. There's also an element of generosity that often grows during this stage. Many people feel the urge to give, whether it's helping a child with a down payment, donating to a cause they care about, or leaving behind a legacy through stories and traditions. Money becomes less about proving worth and more about extending care. That instinct signals that your priorities are shifting away from accumulation toward contribution. When money stops being the scoreboard that defines success and instead becomes a tool that serves your life, it changes everything. You realize the true goal isn't just to have enough, it's to use what you have wisely, in ways that reflect what matters most. That emotional realignment is one of the clearest signs you're not only financially capable, but emotionally ready to embrace retirement. So maybe retirement readiness isn't only about hitting a number in your account, it's about noticing when your heart, your peace, and your priorities start pointing in a new direction. Which of these signs feels most familiar to you? Share your story in the comments. I'd love to hear how you've recognized your own readiness. And if you found this helpful, consider subscribing for more reflections on family, bonding, and retirement life.